But probably the biggest aspect of disbelief you have to suspend is the idea that Gal Gadot, as the wicked witch here, as the evil stepmother, is somehow less good looking than Rachel Zegler.
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Come on, gang. We ain't blind. And I understand that we're supposed to pretend that disabilities no longer exist or something, but we're not all blind. We can still see.
I did an audition. I didn't know what I was auditioning for.
They didn't tell you it was...
They didn't say. They said it was super confidential.
Just when we thought the Snow White saga had cooled off, Gal Gadot finally broke her silence, and Hollywood's ears are still ringing. In a calculated move that felt more like a royal decree than a casual chat, Gadot emerged from her PR castle to address the Rachel Zegler problem. And no, she didn't come bearing poisoned apples, but the subtext was venomous enough. This isn't just a feud between co-stars. This is a full-blown cultural battleground with tiaras, Twitter threads, and two very different visions of what it means to be a Disney princess in 2025. Strap in. The War of the Fairest is officially back on. From co-stars to Cold Wars, the fairy tale that turned political once upon a time, or more accurately, in 2022, Disney cast two women to reinvent its most iconic fairy tale. One, a bright-eyed newcomer with Broadway pipes and a Gen Z political conscience. The other, a global star with Wonder Woman fame and a background that includes, just a casual stint in the Israeli Defense Forces. Nothing to see here, right? Wrong. What followed was less Magic Kingdom, more Middle Eastern minefield. From the second Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot were announced as Snow White and the Evil Queen, respectively, fans and pundits alike began calculating the ticking time bomb of clashing identities. A pro-Palestinian Latina lead with a penchant for unfiltered political posts, paired with a pro-Israel actress who once said, "I will stand with my people." It was less casting and more cultural matchmaking for chaos. Initially, the two played nice. Interviews were tame, press photos were posed. But insiders whisper that the tension started early. "You could feel the air go thick when politics came up," said one crew member. Disney's PR team reportedly instituted a no politics rule during interviews, a rule that Zegler, as we all now know, would gleefully bulldoze. Fast forward to March 2025, and the Dream Project has become a geopolitical soap opera. Gone are the whimsical vibes. In their place, coordinated press avoidance, fan-led boycotts, and social media flame wars that make the Evil Queen's mirror look downright diplomatic. Free Palestine or publicity suicide? Zegler's post that set Hollywood on fire. It was a single sentence, just 5 words. But when Rachel Zegler posted, "And always remember Free Palestine," after sharing the Snow White trailer in August 2024, it hit Hollywood like a Molotov cocktail wrapped in a fairy tale. To her fans, it was a brave act of conscience. To her critics, it was a dangerous provocation. To Disney, it was a full-blown crisis. Gal Gadot, who'd already been receiving online threats due to her pro-Israel stance, was suddenly thrust into the eye of a political storm, one she never publicly invited, but certainly didn't escape. Security was beefed up, executives panicked, and producer Mark Platt was on the next flight to New York to deliver what insiders called a very stern, very expensive pep talk to Zegler. And here's the kicker. This wasn't a one-off. It wasn't a rogue moment of activism. Zegler had been openly critical of Israel's actions for years. The only difference now? She was tethered to Gadot by a $270 million Disney gamble. The optics were nightmarish. A split fan base, a rising chorus of boycott threats, and an online discourse that couldn't decide if this was about genocide, girl power, or just a PR grenade lobbed during a trailer drop. The fallout was immediate. Pro-Israel accounts called Zegler anti-Semitic. Pro-Palestinian activists praised her bravery. Disney's decision? Hire a social media consultant just to monitor their lead actress. An unprecedented move that spoke volumes. Zegler, a 23-year-old with a phone and a conscience, had become Disney's biggest liability. And Gal Gadot? She remained silent. Until now. Diva or defiant? Rachel Zegler's crown-snatching comments, "Go nuclear," If the Free Palestine post was the political firestarter, Zegler's next move was pure celebrity combustion. In March 2025, fresh off an awkward Oscars appearance alongside Gadot, Zegler slid into an Instagram comment thread and casually referred to her co-star as a professional pageant queen. Read, shallow, outdated, pretty without substance, a crown without character, and just like that, the facade cracked. Gone was the illusion of professional harmony. This wasn't a case of differing perspectives anymore. This was shade with a capital S, and it wasn't even subtle. The insult hit harder than any tabloid rumor because it was public, unfiltered, and delivered with the exact kind of passive aggression that only a social media-trained Gen Z star can master. The industry took note. So did Disney. Behind the scenes, damage control morphed into disaster triage. The studio separated the women at press events, limited red carpet interactions, and, yes, it's true, allegedly arranged the seating chart at the premiere to physically keep them apart. Zegler sat 2 rows ahead. Gadot reportedly didn't smile once. And what about the pageant queen herself? Gadot's team stayed silent until a Variety interview in April, where Gadot offered this surgically polite burn. "I believe we should focus on the art, not attack the people we work with." Translation: I could end you, but I have better things to do. Silence, after all, can be sharper than words, especially when it's gilded in Hollywood grace and pointed PR timing. Gal Gadot, beauty queen, bombshell, and now the villain in a real-life drama? It was only a matter of time before Gal Gadot, the woman who once wore Wonder Woman's gauntlets like armor, decided to swing back, not with fists, but with finesse. In a Variety sit-down that felt more like a coronation than an interview, Gadot finally addressed the avalanche of chaos surrounding Snow White, and more importantly, the slow-burning feud with Zegler. "I believe in focusing on storytelling, not tearing down colleagues," she said, teeth practically gleaming through the subtext. But make no mistake, this was a clapback cloaked in queenly restraint. Gadot didn't name names. She didn't have to. The message was clear. She was done being the diplomatic punching bag. For months, she had watched Zegler dominate headlines with every unfiltered thought and thinly veiled swipe. Gadot, meanwhile, played the long game, gritting through premieres, smiling on cue, while quietly watching the narrative twist her from global sweetheart to problematic relic. And now, she was ready to take her story back. The irony? Gadot's own political baggage was just as loaded. Her vocal support for Israel, her IDF background, her retweets of pro-military content, none of it escaped criticism. In fact, the Snow White debacle became a rare Hollywood moment where both leads were being boycotted by different political factions. But while Zegler burned bridges with flamethrower-level tweets, Gadot weaponized silence and subtlety. She didn't need to shout, she just needed to wait, and then drop one perfectly timed quote like a grenade wrapped in silk. And when she did, the internet lit up. Team Gadot praised her class. Critics called it a masterclass in gaslighting. But one thing was clear, this was no longer about Snow White. This was a war of archetypes, youth versus experience, progressive versus traditional, TikTok outburst versus red carpet poise. And suddenly, being the evil queen didn't seem so far from the truth. Disney damage control, security, censorship, and a red carpet ice age. Meanwhile, Disney was doing what it does best when its billion-dollar babies implode, scrambling. What started as a tale of magic and modernization had spiraled into a geopolitical disaster with the energy of a group project gone nuclear. The studio's response? Hide the mess, literally. The March 15th premiere at El Capitan Theater was supposed to be a glittering reset. Instead, it was a scaled-back, press-sanitized ghost town. No real red carpet interviews, no joint appearances. And if you blinked, you might have missed the fact that the stars of the movie weren't even photographed together. Zegler and Gadot were kept apart like radioactive isotopes, too dangerous to interact, too famous to ignore. Behind the scenes, things were even frostier. Disney had reportedly begun vetting Zegler's social media in real time, assigning a dedicated PR handler to babysit her accounts. That's not spin control, that's digital surveillance. Meanwhile, Gadot's security was tripled, following threats that emerged after Zegler's Free Palestine post. Disney's fairy tale had turned into Homeland. And then came the internal panic. Producers blamed Zegler. Executives whispered about Gadot's polarizing image. But neither woman was truly at fault. The real villain? Disney's blind faith that it could package two politically explosive personas into a feel-good blockbuster about woodland creatures and first love. Spoiler alert, it couldn't. Silence no more. Gal Gadot's calculated clapback heard round the industry. When Gadot finally dropped her quote in early April, it didn't just stir gossip, it rewrote the narrative. "Who cares about the celebrity talking about politics?" she said with a smile that could curdle kombucha. A line so breezy, so detached, you'd almost miss the barbed wire beneath it. It wasn't just a dig at Zegler. It was a rebuke of an entire generation of politically vocal celebs who treat Instagram like a podium and activism like branding. Gadot was drawing a line in the sand between the artists and the agitators, between herself and, well, Rachel, and the industry took notice. Executives nodded, PR teams took notes. It was a return to old-school Hollywood strategy. Stay pretty, stay vague, stay apolitical, especially when you're sitting on a ticking time bomb of a film. Zegler may have dominated the discourse, but Gadot had just pulled off the quietest power move of the year. She reclaimed control without raising her voice. The irony, of course, is that both actresses were casualties of a film doomed by its own ambition. But in the war of silence versus statements, Gadot's non-response became the final word. Not because it ended the drama, but because it made it clear. She was no longer playing Snow White's evil queen. She was playing chess. So there you have it, a fairy tale soaked in firestorms, fame, and a feud that echoed far beyond the magic mirror. Snow White may have flopped, but the drama? Oh, it's eternal. Because in Hollywood, silence isn't golden, it's weaponized. And Gal Gadot? She just played it like a queen.